Venomous here with Much Props. Going to give you another how-to video. I recently made the Blessed Dew talisman from Elden Ring and thought I would make something else from the game. I've been watching my little brother play it on his Twitch stream, like I said in a previous video, and I asked him to kind of go through his inventory and show me the weapons, and in particular the ones that were kind of unique. And I kind of honed in on one particular one that stood out to me, and it was a lot different than other weapons that I've made, which is the Venomous Fang. It's similar to like a gauntlet sword or the pata. It's an Indian weapon. It looks like there's a gauntlet or a glove type device with a blade coming out of it, and this weapon looks very similar to that. So today we are going to make the Venomous Fang from Elden Ring. Let's get to building. Made a template for the head base of the snake and traced it onto some 6mm EVA. This template will definitely make another appearance as a helmet. The Venomous Fang is a pretty unique weapon like most are in this game, and I thought I'd give it a go. I glued up all the edges with some contact cement and begin to tack them together once everything is no longer wet. Start by closing up the darts and use the registration marks to help you align the pieces up properly. Typically I glue up one half at a time, but this was a pretty simple shape and I knew that the seams would probably get hidden later by some of the overlays that I had to put on. You will notice the template parts have blue highlights or pink. Those colored areas are to indicate either overlays or 45-degree angle cuts, all of which are described on the cover letter to the template. I realize it may not always seem apparent to some people, but I'm completely making this template up as I go. I made an oversized base that will glue on the inside rim of this piece and then angle the stuff concave so that you basically have a place for your hand to rest. In order to close it all off, I didn't exactly know what the shape was that I needed until I had this part in place. Once it was glued into place, then I could simply just trace that gap onto a piece of paper and cut it out, then cut that into foam. After making almost 200 templates on the channel, I think I may have the hang of doing this. The bottom jaw attachment is what the player inserts their hand through in the game. I made it and attached the assembly to the bottom of my head. After I got it assembled, it looked like it was a little bit too big, so I had to pull it back off, reduce the shape of everything, and then fix my template so that you have the corrected version to go off of. The great thing about foam is that even if you make a mistake, it's easy to go back and clean up or pull parts off that you need to resize. This weapon has tons of overlays, various ridges to make flat areas more interesting. Here are the ones that I started with and eventually added more to bridge some of the gaps in the details. While I did include several other pieces in the template, I didn't film all of them due to redundancy. Here's the basic concept. Hold the part up to where you want it to go and mark it. Then cover both parts with contact cement and wait for that to dry, then tack them together. Boom, done. While I didn't get the stripe details perfectly matching the reference image either, I think I got the general concept across. Pretty much all the empty spaces left once all the overlays are on get filled with strips and some little small scraps on the inside of each division. I could see this template easily being a cool dragon or snake helmet later down the road, and I like the idea that most is covered with overlays to hide any seen crimes. My strips were about 3/4 of an inch wide that I put on. Another part that I didn't template was the little raised areas in between each division, as this would probably vary depending on your placement of the strips. Simply hold your foam up to the area and make yourself a little marked reference, then cut them out. Everything else gets kind of roughly sanded over and into shape and then glued. The Fang blade is made up of 3 simple pieces. Parts 1 and 2 are mirror images of each other, and part 3 makes up the bottom. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a fang from the snake, but it's single in nature and kind of oriented in a way that makes me think it's the snake's tongue, which in that case doesn't really make much sense either, because aren't snakes' tongues supposed to be forked? I'm gonna stop trying to rationalize video game logic and just build it as I see it. After the parts are glued together, I mark the spot on the bottom, glue both parts, and then secure the blade into place. From what I can see in the screenshots of the weapon taken by my younger brother, thanks Tyler, it looks like a ridge across the bottom that wraps around. The mouth area gets a 10mm half dowel and the neck hole gets a 20mm EVA dowel wrapped around. Once again, overlays that hide seams and help with better transition between parts. I glued both parts and then trim them to fit as I go. The surface of the weapon looks a lot like some pitted old metal with a nice patina and rough texture, so with a sanding drum on my rotary tool I begin gouging out random bits all over the place. All this great texture will be made more visible with my paint job later. Make sure to wear a respirator and work in a well ventilated area while sanding EVA. You don't want to breathe in the tiny particles that the rotary tool will kick up from the foam. Now newly textured and heat sealed, the weapon is ready for 2 coats of Plasti Dip. The paint scheme is relatively straightforward to begin with. I am taking a dark copper rub and buff and laying it down for the base color, applied by a dry brushing with a chip brush. I believe the actual weapon is supposed to be a bronze weapon, so this was the closest metallic paint color I have. Hit all the high points with a brush and then leave all the recesses barely touched. Now time to mimic a bronze patina. You can buy chemicals to give yourself a more realistic look, but I didn't have any of that on hand. Modern Masters has some pretty cool aged metal kits, but the acrylic will do just fine. I pulled up a highly detailed image on a Google search of some real aged bronze and just tried to copy what I saw. I started with some blue and green mixed together, then added to a black and a brown to darken it quite a bit, and sporadically applied it all over the surfaces. With each pass I went lighter and lighter till I was satisfied. Over the top of all that I added a white drip of streaks and a little light brown in some corners. I did a similar treatment on a deep sea diving helmet a few years back, I think now, from a Fallout build. The handle on the underside to me kinda seems like just a dirty piece of old rope, so after a quick wash of some brown and black acrylic paint, the rope was ready to go. I drilled a hole just a little bit smaller than the outside of the rope and twisted it into place, holding it permanently with a little bit of super glue. With the handle addition, I think we can call this build done. we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty cool. I definitely like the patina look that is on the weapon itself, and it fits pretty nice. I am definitely going to use this to make a helmet. I mean, this to me already kind of looks like it'd make a good topper for a helmet, maybe even like an Egyptian style. So definitely going to reuse this template for sure. If you want to use the template, it's down in the description below. My templates are always free. You can download them. They are PDFs. Please make sure that you're not trying to download them off a tablet or a Chromebook or on the phone. It needs to be on a PC or a Mac so that you can actually open a PDF, unless you have a PDF reader on your device that you're trying to open it on. Yeah, I get a lot. Maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make something super cool that looks like something from the game and is definitely a unique piece. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some... Yay! And inevitably, they're gonna ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. It's a weapon, your face... prepare yourself. Brace yourself, fool! If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more epic builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.